Welcome to another story made by Oracle 1, The Order of the Unnamed, Episode 3. To Forget or Forgive. The 13th bell had never rung before. Every member of the order knew that. Because there had only ever been 12. 12 bells. 12 vows. 12 circles of forgetting. The sound rolled through the monastery like an earthquake made of memory. Stone walls trembled. The white masks adorning the corridors cracked one by one, porcelain splintering onto polished floors. For the first time since her initiation, people stopped walking with certainty. They looked afraid. Zero ran. The forbidden archive collapsed behind her in a roar of ancient stone, but the old instructor remained at the entrance, his dagger raised against the faceless guardians. "Go," he shouted. "They'll never let you reach him. They'll kill you." He laughed. No. His cracked mask slipped from his face and shattered against the floor. Beneath it was not the face of an old man. It was the face of someone much younger. Someone who had simply forgotten how many years had passed. They already did. The faceless instructors surged forward. He met them alone. Zero wanted to stay, to fight, but she remembered the words spoken through the black fire. "Find me before they do." She turned and ran. The monastery had changed. Hallways no longer led where they had before. Doors opened into rooms she had never seen. Staircases descended far deeper than any architecture should have allowed. It was as if remembering one truth had broken the illusion holding the order together. The building itself had forgotten its shape. Whispers filled every corridor. Not commands. Names. Thousands of names. Each one brushing against her thoughts before vanishing again. As she passed the hall of initiation, every recruit stood perfectly still. Their eyes were closed. Blood trickled from beneath their masks. One whispered, "Mother." Another, "Home." A third fell to their knees, sobbing. The order's spell was failing. Memories were returning. Zero reached the central sanctuary. The tree of forgotten names towered before her. Only now, she saw it clearly. It wasn't white. It never had been. The bark was made from countless strips of parchment layered together so tightly they resembled wood. Millions of names. Millions of lives. Growing into a single living prison. The crimson flames from before had become black. Every branch shook violently. And beneath the roots, something was breathing. "You've come farther than anyone expected." The voice echoed gently through the chamber. The Grand Keeper descended from the highest platform, his porcelain mask untouched by the chaos consuming the monastery. Unlike every other member of the order, his robes were not white. They were ash gray, old, ancient. He carried no weapon, only a staff carved from blackened wood. "You touched the archive. You heard the founder. You remembered." Zero stood her ground. "My brother isn't your founder." The Grand Keeper smiled beneath his mask. "No." A pause. "He was." The roots beneath the tree shifted. The floor trembled. The Grand Keeper rested both hands upon his staff. "Long before kingdoms rose, your brother possessed a gift unlike any before or since." He could remember. Zero frowned. "Everyone remembers." "No." The Keeper shook his head. "Everyone forgets." His voice carried no anger. Only sorrow. People forget promises. They forget kindness. They forget history. They forget why wars begin. They forget why love ends. But Elias, he looked toward the great tree, remembered everything. The chamber darkened. Images formed within the black flames. A young man stood beneath the same tree centuries earlier. Golden-haired, kind eyes, a sword resting across his shoulder. Elias. Older than she remembered, yet unmistakably the boy from beneath the autumn leaves. He watched empires destroy themselves, the Keeper continued. He remembered every betrayal, every murder, every broken oath. He carried the grief of every generation. The vision changed. Elias aged, not physically, emotionally. His smile disappeared. His shoulders bent beneath invisible weight. He begged the world to remember its mistakes. No one listened. Another vision. Cities burned. Kings laughed. Children cried. The same tragedies repeated. Again. 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 So he created the order. Zero whispered, to erase memory? The keeper nodded sadly. To erase suffering. She stared at the visions. No. Her voice grew stronger. That's not what happened. The keeper remained silent. My brother never would have done this. He didn't. Those words froze her. The keeper slowly removed his porcelain mask. His face was weathered by centuries. His eyes exhausted. I did. Silence swallowed the sanctuary. The keeper closed his eyes. Elias asked me to guard one memory. His voice trembled. Only one. The memory of his name. He believed that if the world forgot him, it could finally heal. Zero looked toward the tree. So why erase everyone else? The keeper's shoulders slumped. Because one memory became 2. Then 10. Then thousands. He laughed bitterly. Each generation believed forgetting was easier than forgiveness. We kept expanding the ritual. We convinced ourselves it was mercy. He opened his eyes. It became addiction. A deafening crack echoed through the sanctuary. The tree split down its center. Black light erupted from within. Roots burst through the marble floor. The monastery shook violently. The ground beneath Zero collapsed. She barely caught herself on a dangling root. Far below, she saw them. Not bodies. Memories. Millions of glowing lights suspended beneath the monastery like stars trapped underground. Each light pulsed with a forgotten life. Each waiting to return. The black light gathered into human form. Elias stepped forward. Not a ghost. Not entirely alive. A man woven from memory itself. His eyes found hers instantly. Hello, little sister. Zero burst into tears. You remembered me. I never forgot. He smiled sadly. That was my curse. She ran toward him. For one brief moment, they embraced. He felt warm. Real. Like every missing piece of her heart had returned. Then he gently stepped back. I wish we had more time. The tree groaned again. The roots spread across the sanctuary like veins. The keeper bowed his head. It's breaking. Elias nodded. It always would. The air became impossibly still. Then Elias raised his hand. Between them appeared 2 flames. One silver. One gold. They floated quietly before Zero. There is only one choice left. The silver flame glowed softly. If you touch this, his voice broke slightly. You will forget me. Forever. The order will survive. The rituals will continue. You'll live peacefully. No pain. No grief. No memory of what we've lost. The golden flame burned brighter. And this? Elias looked toward the millions of lights beneath the monastery. You destroy the order. Every stolen memory returns. The world remembers every wound. Every betrayal. Every war. Every promise. He met her eyes. Everyone will carry their pain again. The keeper whispered, they'll hate us. Elias nodded. They should. Zero stared at both flames. One offered peace through forgetting. The other offered suffering through truth. She remembered the recruits. The faceless instructors. The old teacher. The whispers beneath the monastery. None of them had truly been healed. They had simply been emptied. She looked at her brother. When we were children, her voice trembled. Did you teach me anything? Elias smiled. You taught me. What? He laughed quietly. You fell every day while learning the sword. You always cried. But every morning, he looked directly into her eyes. You stood back up. A memory returned. A little girl with scraped knees. A laughing older brother reaching out his hand. Hurts don't disappear just because we close our eyes. They disappear because we heal them. Zero smiled through her tears. Then she reached forward, not toward the silver flame. Toward the golden one. She closed her fingers around it. The sanctuary exploded with light. Every root shattered. The tree of forgotten names screamed as millions of parchment strips tore free from its branches. Names filled the air like snow. The underground lights surged upward in a river of gold. Across the monastery, recruits collapsed as forgotten childhoods flooded back into their minds. The faceless instructors cried out. Eyes returned. Mouths returned. Faces reformed as decades of stolen identities rushed home. The mirrors covering the halls burst into dust. Every hidden reflection vanished forever. The bells cracked apart, one after another, until silence remained. The keeper fell to his knees. Not in defeat, in relief. It's over. He smiled for the first time in centuries. Finally, his body dissolved into golden light, not dying, remembering. The monastery itself began to crumble. Without the tree, it had nothing left to sustain it. Stone became dust. Walls became wind. The endless corridors folded into sunlight. Zero looked at Elias. Come with me. He gently touched her cheek. I can't. Why? Because I was never imprisoned. He looked toward the countless lights rising into the sky. I became the prison. She shook her head desperately. No. If I leave. His form had already begun fading. Every memory returns to me. And the burden begins again. She grabbed his hand. There has to be another way. He smiled. There is. He placed his forehead against hers. You remembered. A pause. So now, let the world remember together. His body dissolved into thousands of golden sparks, each one joining the river of memories ascending into the morning sky. He was gone, not forgotten, finally shared. Months later, no trace of the monastery remained. Only a quiet valley where wildflowers grew. People across kingdoms remembered lost parents, forgotten friends, ancient promises, old betrayals. There was grief, there was anger, there were tears, but there was also reunion, forgiveness, truth. History no longer belonged to a handful of guardians. It belonged to everyone. Zero stood beneath a young tree growing in the center of the valley. Unlike the old one, its branches held no names. Only green leaves dancing in the wind. She smiled. She still missed him every day. The pain never disappeared, and she was grateful for it. Because love that can be erased was never truly love at all. As the wind rustled the leaves, she thought she heard a familiar voice. Soft, warm, proud. Good, little sister. You remembered. For more stories, like and subscribe.